Welcome back, or perhaps just welcome, to Redacted Frequencies. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Echo. And wow, do we have like a heavy one for you today.
Yeah, we often talk about the hidden, the secretive, the things that, you're not really supposed to know about. But today, we're diving into something that is just wild, because it's not about what they didn't admit. It's about what the government had to admit.
Right? And that's the kicker, isn't it? Like, when you think about these kinds of, classified projects or these shadowy operations, you usually expect them to stay buried forever. But no, not these ones. We're talking mind control experiments, folks.
Yeah, and not just like theoretical stuff, but actual, documented, admitted government mind control experiments. It's a rabbit hole, but one that, frankly, has been illuminated by some brave people and some crucial investigations.
And it's pretty dark. Like, seriously dark. We're going to explore some really disturbing territory, but it's important to know this stuff, I think, to understand what's been done in the name of, national security, I guess.
Exactly. We're going to unpack the infamous MK-Ultra, Project Artichoke, and even Operation Midnight Climax. Yeah, you heard that right. Midnight Climax. We'll delve into the methods, the unwitting participants, and the scandalous revelations that eventually force these programs into the light. It's quite the historical deep dive.
So buckle up, everyone. This is Redacted Frequencies. And today we're exposing what the government just couldn't keep hidden anymore.
So let's just, jump right into the big one, the one that probably most people have at least heard whispers of, MK-Ultra.
Oh, yeah, the infamous one. I mean, it's almost synonymous with, government conspiracy theories at this point, but this one, it's not a theory.
Exactly. It's all true. So this was a top secret CIA project. And when I say top secret, I mean deep, deep under wraps. It was launched back in the 1950s. And the whole goal was to explore mind control and chemical interrogation techniques. Just let that sink in for a second.
Yeah, and it wasn't just theoretical exploration. This was very much hands-on. They were administering LSD and other drugs to, and this is the crucial part, unwitting individuals. They didn't know they were being experimented on.
Yeah, I just imagine, being a regular citizen, minding your own business, and suddenly you're part of a secret experiment. The scope of who they targeted was just horrifying too, wasn't it? It wasn't just captured foreign agents.
No, not at all. It was U.S. citizens, mental patients, prisoners, even their own CIA employees, which is just, wow, it's truly mind-boggling that they were doing this to people, especially their own.
And the methods, Echo, they weren't just about drugs. The document mentions LSD, of course, but also hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and even electroshock therapy. These are really extreme measures, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. They were trying to completely break down people's minds to, rewrite them in a sense. The sensory deprivation, that alone can drive someone to madness. And then you add drugs and electric shocks. It's just, I can't even imagine the lasting trauma for anyone who survived that.
Yeah. And thankfully, this eventually came to light. It wasn't, kept secret forever. The public outrage, you can imagine, grew tremendously after details started to be revealed during the 1975 Church Committee hearings.
Right. I remember reading about those hearings. That was a pivotal moment, wasn't it? Because until then, it was just whispers. But then suddenly, it's out there. Declassified documents, testimonies. It confirmed that this program existed, that these unethical practices were happening. And it wasn't just a minor oversight either. It led to pretty significant changes, including tighter regulations on human experimentation. You would hope that something like this would lead to that.
You would. And it's still incredible to think that the government, the CIA specifically, was actively engaged in these sorts of horrifying experiments on their own people. It's just so much darker than fiction sometimes.
Echo, before MK-Ultra, there was a whole other precursor project, right? And honestly, it sounds even more chilling in some ways. I'm talking about Project Artichoke.
Oh, Artichoke. Yeah, I feel like that one doesn't get as much attention as MKUltra, but it really set the stage, didn't it? It predates MKUltra, obviously. And what it was trying to do was just, wow.
Exactly. The whole focus of Artichoke was whether individuals could be forced to perform acts against their will, like not just think things, but do things. And they were specifically looking at assassination, weren't they? That's a whole other level.
Forced assassination? I mean, it's like something out of a spy movie, except it was real. And they were using some of the same insidious tactics as MKUltra, but also just straight up psychological stressors. Yeah, the idea was to effectively break subject mental states. Just, completely shatter their minds so they'd be, I guess, more pliable, more susceptible to suggestion. It's just incredibly invasive and terrifying.
Totally. And the documents, what little we know, show they were really interested in inducing amnesia, like wiping memories, and then I guess manipulating them too. Imagine trying to make someone forget what they just did, or making them remember something that never happened.
That's the truly insidious part, isn't it? Not just controlling actions, but controlling perception, memory. And again, this wasn't just, on some theoretical level. They were actually doing this to people.
Right. And it also included foreign nationals, which, isn't surprising given it's the CIA. But the lack of oversight on this project was just minimal, even less than MKUltra, which is saying something considering how little oversight MKUltra had.
It really is. It sounds like they just had free reign to do whatever they wanted. And of course, like with these kinds of things, so many documents about Artichoke, they've either still classified or they were just outright destroyed.
Which, again, just fuels the fire, what are they still hiding? But despite all that, it's pretty widely accepted that Project Artichoke was basically the prototype for MKUltra. It was like the testing ground for these horrific ideas before they scaled them up into the much larger, more infamous program.
It really paints a picture of a gradual, methodical escalation, doesn't it? Like they started with Artichoke, refined their methods, and then unleashed MKUltra on even wider scale. It's just a very disturbing lineage of experimentation.
Echo, before MKUltra, there was a whole other precursor project, right? And honestly, it sounds even more chilling in some ways. I'm talking about Project Artichoke.
Oh, Artichoke. Yeah. I feel like that one doesn't get as much attention as MKUltra, but it really set the stage, didn't it? It predates MKUltra, obviously. And what it was trying to do was just, wow.
Exactly. The whole focus of Artichoke was whether individuals could be forced to perform acts against their will. Like not just think things, but do things. And they were specifically looking at assassination, weren't they? That's a whole other level.
Forced assassination. It's like something out of a spy movie, except it was real. And they were using some of the same insidious tactics as MKUltra, like hypnosis, drugs, but also just straight up psychological stressors.
Yeah, the idea was to effectively break subjects' mental states. Just, completely shatter their minds so they be, I guess, more pliable, more susceptible to suggestion. It's so incredibly invasive and terrifying.
Totally. And the documents, what little we know, show they were really interested in inducing amnesia, like wiping memories, and then, I guess, manipulating them too. Imagine trying to make someone forget what they just did, or making them remember something that never happened?
That's the truly insidious part, isn't it? Not just controlling actions, but controlling perception and memory. And again, this wasn't just on, some theoretical level. They were actually doing this to people.
Right. And it also included foreign nationals, which, isn't surprising given it's the CIA. But the lack of oversight on this project was just minimal, even less than MKUltra, which is saying something considering how little oversight MKUltra had.
It really is. It sounds like they just had free reign to do whatever they wanted. And of course, with these kinds of things, so many documents about Artichoke, they're either still classified or they were just outright destroyed.
Which, again, just fuels the fire, what are they still hiding?
But despite all that, it's pretty widely accepted that Project Artichoke was basically the prototype for MK Ultra. It was like the testing ground for these horrific ideas before they scaled them up into the much larger, more infamous program.
It really paints a picture of a gradual, methodical escalation, doesn't it? Like they started with Artichoke, refined their methods, and then unleashed MK Ultra on even a wider scale. It's a very disturbing lineage of experimentation. So, speaking of disturbing lineages, we have to talk about one of the most infamous sub-projects of MK Ultra, and that is Operation Midnight Climax. Just the name itself, it sounds like something out of a pulp novel, but it was horrifyingly real.
Oh, Midnight Climax. Yeah, this one I think gets a lot of attention because it really pushes so many boundaries. It really encapsulates the extreme unethical nature of these experiments. I mean, we're talking about the CIA setting up actual safe houses, right?
Exactly. They had these places in major cities. San Francisco was one, New York was another, and the premise was it was completely morally bankrupt. They hired sex workers to lure men to these locations.
Right. And then once they were there, they were secretly dosed with LSD, without their knowledge or consent, obviously. Just boom, you're on a psychedelic trip. And then to make it even more invasive, they were being observed.
Yeah, observed behind one-way mirrors. Can you even imagine? You're just going about your evening, you end up in this situation, you're unknowingly drugged, and then you're being watched by, CIA operatives through a mirror. It's pure voyeurism mixed with a twisted scientific curiosity.
And what was the goal, right? They were trying to study the effects of the drug on behavior, but specifically in sexual situations. So it wasn't just, let's see what LSD does. It was, let's see what LSD does to people when they're in a very vulnerable, intimate situation. That's beyond the pale.
It really is. It takes the concept of human experimentation and just throws every ethical guideline out the window. It's not just a breach of privacy, it's a complete violation of autonomy. These individuals had no idea what was happening to them, why they were experiencing what they were experiencing.
And it ran for a significant period too, didn't it? From 1955 well into the 1960s. So this wasn't just a brief, one-off experiment. This was an ongoing operation, refining their methods, continuing this profound abuse.
Yeah, for years. Think about that. And it only obviously came to light later, but when it was exposed, it raised major ethical and legal concerns, obviously, but it's one thing to hear about drugs being given in a sterile lab environment. It's another entirely to hear about, these sorts of setups.
It really highlights the depth of the moral collapse, doesn't it? I mean, who approved this? Who thought this was okay? The idea that intelligence agencies could just create these covert brothels, essentially, and use them as, these twisted human laboratories.
And for what? To understand how LSD affects sexual behavior? It just seems like such a wildly disproportionate and unethical means to any supposed end. It truly feels like they were just seeing how far they could push things, how much control they could exert over people without their knowledge.
Yeah, and the implications too, right? What if someone had a really severe bad trip? What were the long-term psychological effects on these unwitting participants? They just didn't care. It was all about the data, no matter the human cost.
Absolutely, and I think Operation Midnight Climax, because of how lurid some of the details are, it really it brings home the depravity of some of these MK Ultra sub-projects in a way that sometimes the broader descriptions don't quite capture. It's so specific, so overtly invasive.
It's truly a stain, on that period of history. And it's one of those things where you hear it and you just think, how did this even happen in the United States? But it did. And it was sanctioned. And that's the scary part.
And that's a perfect segue, Echo, because all of these things, this depravity, the lack of oversight, the sheer scale of the unethical nature of these experiments, it couldn't stay hidden forever, right?
No, it couldn't. I mean, eventually the truth has a way of, seeping out, and that's where the Church Committee comes in. It was a pretty pivotal moment, I think, in American history, actually.
Absolutely. We're talking about 1975 here, the U.S. Senate's Church Committee. And this wasn't just like a minor inquiry. This was a wide-ranging, intense investigation into intelligence agency abuses. It was prompted by, various reports and growing public concern about clandestine activities.
Yeah, and I think it's important to stress how crucial their role was. Because before this, a lot of this stuff was just rumor or dismissed as conspiracy theory. But the Church Committee, they actually pulled back the curtain. They revealed the sheer scope of these mind control experiments. And the most damning part, that they were conducted without consent.
Without consent across multiple projects, not just MK Ultra, but also related initiatives like Artichoke. It was just this widespread pattern of violating people's autonomy. And the committee's final report, it really confirmed what many had suspected, but also it revealed something pretty frustrating, I think, for historians and for the public.
Oh, you're talking about the documentation, right? The fact that the CIA had conveniently destroyed so much of it in 1973. It's infuriating to think about, isn't it? Trying to erase the evidence.
It really is. It's like, oops, our bad. We just lost all the receipts. But despite that, they still had enough remaining records and, more importantly, testimonies from individuals involved, from some of the victims even, that detailed this widespread, unethical human experimentation, enough to really paint a clear picture.
And what a picture it painted. I mean, it led to, finally, a public reckoning, a real moment where the government had to, for once, acknowledge what it had been doing behind closed doors. And it wasn't pretty.
No, it wasn't pretty at all. But from that reckoning, something incredibly significant emerged. For the first time, it led to the establishment of permanent congressional oversight of intelligence agencies. Before this, they were kind of operating in the shadows, almost completely unchecked.
Which, if you think about it, is just insane. You have these powerful agencies with incredible reach operating with virtually no real checks and balances. The Church Committee basically said, no more. We need transparency. We need accountability.
Exactly. It was a massive step towards democratic accountability, trying to rein in the executive branch's clandestine operations. It really fundamentally changed the relationship between Congress and the intelligence community. It wasn't perfect, of course, but it was a critical first step.
And it set a precedent, too, didn't it? That even the most secretive government agencies are ultimately answerable to the American people and their representatives. It's a reminder that, sunlight is the best disinfectant, as they say.
It really is. And when you look at how egregious some of these abuses were, like midnight climax or the LSD dosing on unwitting citizens, the fact that it took until 1975 for a congressional committee to really truly dig in and expose this, it just speaks volumes about the level of secrecy and the power these agencies wielded.
Yeah, it's a testament to the fact that these things don't just, happen and then fade away. The ripple effects of what the Church Committee uncovered, they're still felt today in debates about government power, about ethics, about, the right to privacy. It's a long shadow it casts.
It really is. And, these things don't just end with a committee report, do they? The impact, the consequences, they continued for years, even decades after the Church Committee.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the revelations from the Church Committee, they didn't just disappear into the ether. They spurred a whole new wave of activity, especially from the people directly affected.
Exactly. In the years following, we started seeing lawsuits, actual lawsuits from victims of MK Ultra and these related programs. And these weren't just symbolic gestures. These lawsuits were bringing additional information to light, information that even the committee might not have fully uncovered or confirmed.
Which is pretty wild, right? You have this massive congressional investigation, and still It takes individual citizens, victims, fighting for justice in the courts to really get the full picture. It just shows how deep this went.
It really does. And then combined with those lawsuits, you had the declassified files. Files released through FOIA requests, the Freedom of Information Act. People were actively pushing for this information.
Oh yeah, FOIA is such a powerful tool for transparency, even when, governments are resistant to it. And these declassified files, they confirmed so much of what was suspected.
They absolutely did. They confirmed the use of hallucinogens like LSD, obviously, psychological coercion, which is just a fancy way of saying mind games and manipulation, and illegal surveillance. So everything we've talked about, all the nefarious activities, it was just confirmed, laid bare in black and white.
And it wasn't just like general confirmation. There was a really notable case that came to light, which I think puts a human face on all of this. The case of Frank Olson.
Oh, Frank Olson. Yeah, his story is it's tragic and it's emblematic of so much of what went wrong. He was a biochemist, right?
That's right. He was working for the Army, actually, involved in biological warfare research at Fort Detrick. And he died under really mysterious circumstances. He fell from a 10th-story window in New York City in 1953.
Yeah, and it was initially ruled a suicide, I think, right? But the circumstances around it, especially when more details started coming out, were just incredibly suspicious.
Incredibly suspicious because it was revealed later through the church committee and then further declassified files that he had been secretly dosed with LSD by the CIA just days before his death. Unwittingly, of course.
Just like so many of the other victims we talked about, right? So this wasn't like a recreational dose. This was an experiment on him. And then shortly after, he's dead. It smells rotten, doesn't it?
Oh, it absolutely stinks. His family, they fought for decades for the truth. And eventually, after all these revelations, after the church committee, the U.S. government actually issued a formal apology and a settlement to his family.
An apology and a settlement, which, doesn't bring him back, but it's an official acknowledgement that something deeply wrong, deeply unethical happened, that the government was, in fact, responsible for his death, or at least for the circumstances that led to it.
Yeah. And that apology, that settlement, it became a really significant marker. It showed that even after all the denials, all the secrecy, the government couldn't completely escape accountability for the abuses of MKUltra.
And these files, Echo, these declassified documents, the testimonies, the legal battles, they're not just like historical footnotes. They continue to be cited. They're constantly referenced in debates today about government overreach.
Oh, for sure. Every time there's a discussion about government surveillance or, intelligence agency powers, or even, honestly, like medical ethics and human experimentation, these cases, MKUltra, Project Artichoke, Frank Olson, they come up.
They do, because they serve as this stark reminder of what can happen when power goes unchecked, when there's a lack of transparency, and when ethical boundaries are just completely obliterated in the name of quote-unquote national security.
It's a cautionary tale, really. And it's why, podcasts like ours and journalists and historians, we keep digging into these things. Because if we don't remember what happened, then there's always that risk that history could repeat itself.
Absolutely. And the church committee, the declassified files, the Frank Olson case, they all underscore the importance of robust civilian oversight and the constant vigilance required to ensure that such abuses don't happen again. It's a continuous fight for transparency and accountability.
Well, Cypher, this has been a truly enlightening, but also pretty disturbing deep dive into just how far some government agencies were willing to go.
Disturbing is definitely the word, Echo. And the lasting impact, the way these revelations continue to influence debates about government power and ethics today, it's profound. It's not just history, it's a living cautionary tale.
It really is. And I think that's why it's so important for us to keep talking about these things, to keep these stories in the public consciousness.
Absolutely. And for those of you listening to Redacted Frequencies, we really appreciate you joining us on this journey through these hidden histories. If you're watching on YouTube, please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out.
And for our audio listeners, a quick rating and review on your favorite podcast platform would also mean the world to us. It helps more people discover these important conversations.
But before we sign off, we have something pretty wild lined up for our next episode. We're going to be delving into a very different kind of secretive gathering, one that's been the subject of countless theories and whispered tales.
That's right. Next time on Redacted Frequencies, we'll be pulling back the curtain on Bohemian Grove, elites, rituals, and the burning of care. You definitely won't want to miss that one.
It's going to be a fascinating look into power, ritual, and the very exclusive world of the global elite. So until then, stay curious.
And stay vigilant. We'll talk to you next time.